I begin to set up the PowerPoint, I just wanted to take a quick, ask a quick question. I know that most of you have children who are between the ages of 11 and 18, but I did want to ask, there are three main topics I'll be sharing on today. I'll be talking about academic programs, summer internships, and also project ideas and how to develop them. So, but I have like an abundance of material, and in my kind of a mock rundown, I realized I will definitely go over time if I went through my whole deck. So I just wanted to ask you to type in the chat box what you are most interested in among those three, and I will focus a bit more on that. And don't worry, we can always communicate after this if you have further questions on other topics. And this will allow us to save a little time at the end for some questions as well. But also do feel free to type in your questions. And is Min here, or Phil, or Jess, someone from Baker & Bloom? They will help monitor and at the end call to my attention the most important questions to address. So welcome everyone. I'm just going to get started here, and please, if you're just joining, I just said please try to write down what you are most interested in: projects, internships, and academic programs, summer programs. Phil, someone is writing on the screen. Is that me? I don't think it is me. Those yellow lines I didn't write. I think it was accidentally drawn by somebody else.
Okay, I will remove them.
Yes, someone else is drawing that. Okay, but let's get into our talk today. So thank you so much, everyone. As you know, we at Baker & Bloom, which is a K-12 education center, do a lot to support kids throughout the year, not only during the academic year, but also during holidays. And in fact, we're approaching our Christmas holiday right now, and we have Christmas workshops as well. But of course, one of the longest holidays that we have in the year is the summer holiday. And today, I'd like to share with you some ideas about how to plan with your child for the summer. Okay, so sorry, I'm hearing a lot of sound. Is everyone else okay? You can hear me clearly? I don't know, I hear a weird echo, but all right. So Phil, text me if something is wrong. Okay. So very quick introduction. My name is Renée Boey, and I'm the founder and educational director of Baker & Bloom, as well as Bloom Academy, which is a school of innovation, a bilingual school of innovation that we're launching next fall. It's a primary school, and then we will have a secondary school as well. And I've taught in different countries before, and in Hong Kong, I taught at ISF Academy during its early years while it was being founded. And I'm an IB trained teacher. But I also, for the purpose of today's talk, want to point out that I've also worked as a college admissions counselor, at boarding school admissions counselor for the past 6 years. And very happy today because Baker & Bloom has done very well. We have two kids who got into Stanford today, so we're very happy. But we also have other admissions results coming in this week, so we're all a little bit nervous, but looking forward to some good news. And I bring that up because I know that in the sort of our promotion of today's talk, we did talk a bit about how summer relates to admissions and all of that. So just want to reassure you that I very much understand that while there are certain things we want out of summer, we also want to sometimes have to plan and make sure that it also achieves but it also helps to develop our students in ways that support their college application success. And through working with a lot of students in a very high touch, one-on-one type of way, I've come to understand a lot about how kids arrive at their choices, not only for what school to go to, but also their majors, how they discover their passions, how they don't, and also how they develop themselves during the summer. So a lot of this also, today's talk and sharing comes out of my experience working with individual students and talking a lot to universities and boarding schools as well. So quick statistic to share that might be a little bit daunting, but these schools, which are some of the most selective schools in the US, in the world actually, they actually routinely reject over half of their 4.0 or 2400 or 1600 SAT score students. And Stanford alone rejects 70% of students with perfect SATs. So this really makes you think, what are they looking for, right? And when we think of summer, this is the picture that I think of, at least when I was growing up. Summer was definitely the time to unwind, to relax, and to take a break from what you normally have to do during the school year. And I think that what I hope to convey in today's webinar is that we can achieve both, right? And that kids need both. They definitely have to think a bit about this, the fact that they should be doing something that will make them stand out, that will help develop them in ways beyond test prep and academics. But at the same time, they also need a bit of chill time. And the way I'd like to structure today's sharing is through 3 questions, very simple questions. The first is why. So why are you doing what you're doing in the summer? And what? So some ideas for concrete things to do, and then the how. And in a way, this is how I'm structuring it, but at the same time, the 3 main things that I'm covering include academic programs, projects, and internships. But if none of these appeal to you, there will also be other things that I will suggest in terms of how to explore your child's interest. Okay, so I'm going to go a little fast because there's a lot I'd like to share, and I hope this is a useful session for you. So I'd like to begin with this list of activities. And in the chat, I hope you can respond. Which one of these to you, if you were an admissions officer, evaluating resumes and applications, which one of these look the most impressive and would make you feel that there's something special about this student or candidate? So we have a cardiovascular surgery internship. We have running a podcast, designing a VR game, doing service, launching a farm-to-table business, leading a hockey team to compete at an international level, doing research, all very impressive things. And certainly I would say that when I was in high school, I doubt many of my peers were doing these things, but these are actually real real summer experiences. So, I'm curious to know what you might, what might be. Oh, I just realized, how do I see the chat while, there must be a way I can see the chat. There we go. Okay. So we have launching a business. Everyone else, could you very quickly type into the chat your thoughts on which one to you is the most impressive, and think about why, obviously. Yes, they certainly are all good. But if you had to pick one that would impress you, it's kind of curious. And think about what, while other than just ranking them, like what do they reveal and how would they help your child develop or explore who they are, what they're interested in? Okay, so I'm just gonna call on someone who said volunteering. Charlize, if you don't mind, either turning on your mic or through the chat, sharing why you said volunteering. It'd be great if you could speak, but if you prefer to type, that's fine too. It's, I think, someone called Charlize Fan. Do I have to unmute you? Sorry, I might have to unmute you. Oh no, maybe B&B, Phil, or somebody over there. Can you unmute Charlize? So, thank you. Oops. Hi, Charlize.
Hi. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
sorry to call on you, but do you mind sharing your thoughts on why you picked volunteering?
Because I think it's a chance to see the poor side, or like how that country that you will never have you may not pick that country as a vacational purpose. That's why it's good for kids to have another experience of the poor side of the world, something that you may not think this is a good choice if for vacation.
I love how you're pointing out it's not just service, but also travel, right? And like you said, it's something that you normally might not consider during your holiday time, especially maybe not to do what you would be doing. Often in these cases, it's to build things like build hospitals, to volunteer at different charities. And it's a great way to interact with people from different countries in a way that's deeper and less superficial. Thank you so much. One more person. Anyone want to share why they picked what they picked? Oh, we kind of have, it's hard to know. I better call on someone because you have to unmute them. So Alex Chan, someone who said launching farm to table business, launching a business.
I'm muting Alex.
Hi, well, it's because you're starting something new and then you're leading it and then you're creating something from scratch. So the other one can be deemed to be more participatory. I mean, even though they're good. So that's my reason.
Great. So thank you. I'm asking you because I think that your choice often reflects what you think is important and also ways in which your child can develop or stand out. And you pointed out, experiences that are out of the ordinary that you wouldn't normally do, helping other people, certainly. And you said it shows a lot of initiative and leadership. And definitely those are things that are not only, good. I mean, I always feel very strange about talking about this because I honestly am against the idea of doing things purely for the sake of admissions. That is not why we learn. That is not why or how we want to raise our kids, right? But at the same time, I think it is true that in the process sometimes of achieving this rather superficial goal, kids do discover, it motivates them to stretch themselves, to challenge themselves. And I think that launching something is a trend that has been growing over the years, but it does have a lot of benefits. And I understand fully that often teenagers do things, they start things and after a year or two, that's the end of that. And there's not a lot of sustainability to what they do. And it is very impressive, therefore, when there is. But I also think that the experience of starting something, as Alex pointed out, takes a lot of leadership. It takes a lot of people skills. And that's something that in the classroom, they may not often get. And in fact, I would argue that, as some of you have pointed out, everything on this list is impressive. And what matters is possibly how it connects with your individual child, what they want to do, what they're interested in, and also their values. Like to some people, what makes them special is how much they care about the world, how much they care about other people and helping them. And that matters to them a lot more. They could do research too. It's not that they're not like smart enough to do research, but what's closer to their core, their values, and who they are, and therefore who they should be projecting and presenting to the colleges. And for someone else, it might be to show that they're very creative. And so designing a VR game, while might be less collaborative, perhaps not, but could be a little less collaborative, might be something that is just more up their alley, that will shine a light on their strengths better. So in a way, you're right, there is no right answer, but I hope that this list at least gives you an idea of how to do things to a degree of depth that also connects to your interests. So why is summer so special, and why are we focusing on this as a special period to think about? And I'll give you a couple of reasons that I think will help you guide your child in designing their summers. So the first is unstructured time. And I think in this day and age, this is so precious, especially I looked at the list of who's attending today, and all of your kids go to wonderful schools. And I'm sure that their regular schedules is actually already pretty rigorous and packed. And I think that like everybody, like all of us, kids need that time to have some space to reflect, to unwind, to not be told to do anything. And it is not true that just because this year everything is happening remotely, or a lot of it seems very unstructured already, that they don't need more of this. Meaning, despite all that, your children will still want to have time where they have full control over what they do. At the same time, because it is unstructured, it's a blank slate, and you get to actually design and have some control over how you spend your summer. And that's one of the best times to show who you are and what matters to you. And so that's why on college applications, there's always a space devoted to that, whether it's like the academic courses you might have taken, or direct supplemental questions that say, describe what you did the past 3 summers, or one of your best or most important summer experiences. Because they feel, well, during the school year, maybe you're limited by the choices offered at your school or by the demands of your activities. But when it's up to you, what do you choose to do? Another reason why summer is interesting and important is what colleges look for. And it allows you to develop in those areas. And this is actually a good slide that combines both of the sort of conflicting agendas that we have. One is more purpose-driven, like, okay, what are colleges looking for? But the other is actually more child-centered, right? That is actually about just the cultivation of who your child is. And the way I'd like to present this is through the framework that Dr. Tony Wagner, who is an educator focused on how to cultivate innovators. He talks about this framework of play, passion, and purpose, and how we can help our kids to learn and grow through these 3 things. And so I think that when it comes to play, you think about things that your child might want to do that is fun, right? It might be a sport, it might be a hobby that they want to develop some skill in, or it might be a fun family experience, right? So I'll talk a bit about those ideas. And that relates to cultivating creativity. And you want to, and also in applications, show this originality. And that's why you don't necessarily always every summer want to go enroll in a university academic program, because that's not very imaginative. And then the second is passion. With passion, we talk about this word all the time in admissions, and it is really undeniably important. And when you interview someone, if you ever have interviewed a child for a college or even anybody for a job, you'll know that very quickly the people who genuinely have passion reveal it through the specific examples that they can give about what they love, even just the intensity of their voice, the expressions on their faces, and that comes through when you're describing what you do in the summer too. And it's also an opportunity, though. It's not enough to have a passion when it comes to admissions. You also have to have some skills and depth and sustained interest. So summer is a wonderful time to develop expertise and knowledge. So that's why we will be focusing a bit of time on academic programs. I think that's one of the main things that academic programs offer, which is a higher level of academic challenge and expertise, interaction with people who are experts, and more so than the brand name of the school, of the summer program. And then third, initiative. And going back to the farm to table idea, I think that that's something that demonstrates initiative. And what initiative demonstrates is often purpose. So instead of, like, you could be doing something where you are having a lot of fun and you're being very creative, but there's no real like agenda, purpose, or organized cause or goal. But when we talk about building something, launching something, doing something where you come up with the idea and then you have to rally the troops, that definitely reveals a bit of your sense of purpose. And that's an area that I particularly want to highlight after the slide. I want to share this slide, and this is what Google has revealed that it looks for. Some Google insiders have written about this, books about this, in terms of what they look for when they interview people. So obviously they care about your cognitive ability, how smart you are, whether you can step into leadership roles, whether you have that expertise we're talking about, role-related knowledge, related to the job. So if you're applying to be like, a UX designer, you should have experience with that, right? And if you are doing marketing, then you should have those skills. But one thing that is quite unique to Google is what they call googliness. And that's an ability to show signs of comfort with ambiguity and to have a collaborative nature. I love this because I think that it's often something that at school, we find it very hard to measure, and everything that doesn't get measured doesn't seem to matter as much to the teachers or to students sometimes. And so this is often kind of developed accidentally or as a byproduct of doing something else. But I think in the summer, it's something you can actively pursue. It's an ability to, and remember the title of today's talk is actually, how to make the most of your summer during an uncertain time. And in a way, that's kind of the meta message. Like when things are uncertain, how do you navigate that? How do you adapt? And are you comfortable with defining your own values, defining your own purpose? And after that, are you able to work with other people to achieve your purpose? And I have to use, well, okay. This woman means a lot to many people, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and actually love this quote, and I've always loved it. But one of the things that she talks a lot about when she talks to young people is what does it mean to lead a meaningful life to you? She actually addressed several universities students in graduation with this question. And I just wanted to suggest that you have a conversation with your child about this, even though it's such a big, daunting question, and to discuss what it means to you, right? Because your child will look to you for that type of guidance, ideally. And what she says is, to put it simply, it means doing something outside yourself. For her, when she looked back at her life, that's what meant the most to her, to do something outside yourself. And I have to say, it very much resonates with me. I feel that when kids are able to step out of themselves, and it could be still a very solitary task, right? I mean, reading is very solitary and it seems to be purely selfish in many ways, but it is doing something that transports you, that makes you emotionally step into someone else's shoes, or to see the world from a different perspective and to be a little less ignorant. So I think that is something to think about, right? Like, how can you help your kids find opportunities to do something? Oddly, it's all about them, but really that's not about them. Okay, so we're on to the second part, what? So what can they actually do in the summer? And here are some suggestions. Try to aim to do something new, because summer is the time to experiment. We talked about it being unstructured, how you have control. And of course, the word travel now seems extremely exotic and unlikely to us, but I think that it's also metaphorical, right? Allegorical. We can definitely travel in many ways, and I will give you concrete ways to travel without leaving Hong Kong. And maybe by 2021 summer, there will be opportunities to travel, but it is also time to do things that are new. And especially some of your children are like not even in grade 9 yet. Definitely summer. I mean, how are you going to find your passion if you don't actually experiment and try new things? So don't be afraid if your child wants to do something. Maybe they've been doing an instrument for 6 years and they want to do something new. And you might feel like, oh, why not just like develop expertise? But summer is the time where I think you should encourage your kids and allow your children to do something that is outside of what they normally do. And then second thing is deepening, developing depth and expertise. Sorry for that extra comment there. But I think in particular, when it comes to things like sports, a lot of times during the school year, academics is still the priority. And so things like sports and arts, music, theater are often relegated to secondary, a secondary role. And a lot of great training programs might be international and also require that intense period of deliberate practice where you are working with an expert, someone who does it professionally, and who can give you that feedback, which when it happens in a very intensive way allows you to accelerate your growth. So I highly recommend that. I mean, even if, not even if, but including skills like cooking. I've had kids who actually develop culinary skills over the summer. And you might think, okay, that's not super relevant to college, but you never know, right? And certainly it relates to someone's passion, and that matters a lot. And so I just want to suggest that think about ways in which you can support your child deepening their skills in structured ways as well as more unstructured ways. Okay, so work and play. You can work for other people. You can work for yourself, meaning like you could launch your own farm to table business. You could build an app, and your app could be basically an internship because you're doing something that is real. You could be collaborating with friends, and it can be paid or unpaid. Obviously, a lot of people would say paid is better, and I do think so as well, because whether it is the fact that a paid internship is usually more selective, and it also reflects the value that the employer places on what you're providing. And so it is very validating psychologically for the child as well, but also it often helps motivate kids to go to work and to take it seriously. Believe it or not, I mean, one of the things that I do is work with Cocoon Foundation, and Cocoon is this it's a startup incubator, and it also has a nonprofit called Cocoon Foundation. And we work with over 40 secondary schools, over 8,000 kids in the past 3 years. And one of the programs that we run is an internship program. And one thing that I hear again and again from startups, luckily not so much anymore, is that a lot of them have had experiences where they offer internships and people don't show up. They show up late. They're not very grateful. So you think that sometimes you've given kids that opportunity to do an internship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they appreciate it or they make the most of it. And also it could be in Hong Kong or it could be elsewhere. So we'll talk about remote internships as well if you can't travel. But if you can travel, why not go do an internship somewhere else? Particularly, I would say for people living in Hong Kong, go to somewhere in mainland China. That's something close by. You pick up language skills. It's relatively safe, and it's so easy. And there's so many opportunities just right by our doorstep. And then the last thing, but very important, is play. And as I've been saying, quality downtime. But also one thing I find happens over the summer that is so important is building friendships. And one thing I love seeing, and this happens every single year, people in their adolescence form intense friendships over the summer. Like it might be a residential program, a summer camp, it might be interning together. And that's one of the ways in which your kid will make friends outside of school. And that's so important. I mean, I know many students who, even when they're older, they travel to visit friends in different parts of the world, or they go to somewhere and they have a friend because of their summer experiences. So that's certainly something that you don't put on a resume, but it matters a lot. And of course, relationship also includes their relationship with you. And I think that one of the joys of parenting is being with your child. And one of the great things about having family is spending time together, having conversations, doing new things together, like travel, or even just in Hong Kong this year, we probably all discovered wonderful things to do with our family that does not require us, that don't require us to go abroad. But it's also a time of renewal, right? So sometimes kids will have done something like, let's say they do a sport all year and they're kind of trained to death, and they need to take a break to rediscover why they actually love what they do. So it's hard to say. It depends very much on where your child is at that particular point in time. But these are 4 things that I kind of wanted to point out. Okay, so some tips based on what I see a lot of kids do. So try to think of unique experiences, even when you're thinking of, okay, work and all of that. Don't just go, okay, well, I have a friend who does this. My kid kind of likes, let's say your child is interested in medicine, and you have a friend who's a doctor. So boom, I found an internship. They can just shadow Uncle Thomas. But okay, that's nice. But at the same time, engage your child to see whether you can make it a more unique experience. And of course, the more unique and selective and hard to come by something is, the more it would make you stand out. At the same time, some things that are very special are not hard to come by. They can be very unique, but very easy. And so but what matters though, I think, is something that is special. So for example, if your child speaks a different language, I think that that's something where you can combine that with service, for example, to tutor kids online in a different country, to serve a different community. That I think is a wonderful thing to do with their skills. So instead of just like taking a Spanish program abroad, which is not that unique, although it might be very meaningful, you could ask your child to see if they want to use their Spanish skills to tutor kids in Ecuador or something. And that would be a more interesting way, in a way, to develop their language skills. I've already mentioned this, so it's always better to initiate something rather than enroll in programs that are pay to play. Basically, a lot of even the big name university summer programs are not that hard to get into if you can afford it. So they don't impress colleges, and things that you initiate would impress them even more. Travel if you can. And I say that because I find that a lot of times when we're physically removed, I mean, you can know what the benefit of travel is, but I think that for your child, there's a lot of things that they read online that they think they know about, but in reality, if they don't physically leave Hong Kong and go there, they don't really know it. They haven't experienced it. And we live in an age where kids experience most things through a screen. So travel has that magic of removing them from the screen a bit, because they know that when they're somewhere else, you want to be looking at the actual building rather than just staying in your hotel room and like looking at a screen, hopefully. And so travel has that power to physically remove them from the digital world. Reading and writing, extremely important. I think that one of the best and most kind of almost lacking preparation that I see for boarding school and for college is reading and writing. Rarely do I see a kid, especially from Hong Kong, who can't handle the math. But I feel so many kids, even if they choose STEM careers, don't know how to do research. They can't write a good paper, even if they go to IB schools. And I think summer is a great time to write and read about things that matter to you. And that's the easiest way to develop your skill. Because if you're being forced to write about a topic that you don't like, even if you were a writer, it's actually not fun. And your voice is not going to be super engaged. So in the summer, though, you can always ask your child to write a journal, to keep a record of what they've read, to do movie reviews. And that's really good practice. Of course, they can also enroll more formally in programs, and that can be a great thing to do at least for one summer. And of course, to read outside what they normally would read. And on the Baker and Bloom website, we have one of the resources is the ultimate resource that we came out with last year when COVID first started, and many people were asking us for book recommendations, podcast recommendations. So definitely check that out if you're curious about what to read. And then finding that balance is so important, because you might want to balance it by saying like half the summer is rather intensive internships or summer programs, and then the other half is like travel or downtime or doing whatever your child chooses to do. Or it might be like smack in the middle, there's something exciting, planning a fun event that they look forward to. It might be for younger kids as simple as a sleepover or going to a music festival together, or it could be something that your child plans for themselves. And I think one of the other things I didn't quite mention before, but I should now, is that while right now most of you listening, I think, are parents, probably who should be listening to this is really your child, because the best thing to do is for your child to be driving the design of their summers. And of course, you have more information oftentimes, or you're more motivated to do the research, but engaging your child in that conversation is so important. And in fact, that goes back to my first slide about unstructured time. So much of what they do at school is fed to them. They're told what to do. They have to do it. It's a prerequisite. It's a requirement. It's homework. But really, how do they develop into the independent learners that we all say we want our kids to be? And in fact, colleges also want your kid to be. Well, they need to have an opportunity to make a decision, to have say. And summer is one of the best times to give them that power. So at Baker and Bloom, we use the 4-leaf approach, which covers 4 areas that we think in the 21st century in particular, learning should be aiming for. So developing language skills and communication skills, this is an area, and I share this because I think it also guides what you could be doing if you're not sure what your kid is passionate about over the summer. You can't go wrong if you develop in these 4 areas. Language skills, communication skills. Language might include a second language. It might include a computer programming language. Learning to learn. So anything that you feel helps your kid develop the confidence to learn, that joy of learning. That's why I said, like, even if it's cooking, that's fine, as long as they're doing something that exercises their learning capacity and their reflection of how they learn, so that they understand that perhaps, like, especially I would say for kids who may not have done that well during the academic year, it's a great way to rediscover what it feels like to learn and to grow. For example, even if you learn how to play a video game and you master it, that can be a huge confidence booster. And having a conversation with your kids about that is the little bit of extra thing that you as a parent can do to help them reflect on the meta skills of learning. Creativity. So that includes everything from doing things that require them to make something or to have a choice in what they make and how they make it, to just learning how to think creatively. So that might also be doing research. It might also be done through just reading. Leadership and service, we talked about different opportunities to do service, which you can definitely find in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a place with many, many nonprofit organizations. Cold calling them is not out of bounds. I definitely have kids who have done that very successfully, but the key is, of course, to do your research, to understand what the organization's mission is, whether they've ever taken interns before, and to demonstrate in a very professional, mature manner that you are a good fit and you have something to contribute. So leadership and service. Okay. Now I'm going to dive into this part where I'm going to time myself and make sure we don't spend more than 5 minutes on this. I'm going to go through 10 slides, and all of them have these lists of programs. Feel free to take a picture. No problem with that. Let me set my timer because I always feel I take a little too long sharing things that we could share much more easily. Okay, so boarding school, because some of you have younger kids. These are top US boarding schools that offer great programs. I've highlighted here things that are a bit different. I've also researched whether they offer things online or on campus this coming summer. And it seems that some of them are not sure yet. So they're still, like Lawrenceville is asking you to check back later. However, they're committed this year to having a summer program because they're a bit more prepared. Last year, almost all the summer schools decided not to run their summer programs. I mean, the boarding schools. The universities were more equipped, but a lot of the high schools did not. But this coming year, some of them will be doing it on campus and some of them online. So things like Choate has a theater immersion program. With Lawrenceville, you get more of a Hartness table experience. Deerfield has a great project-oriented, hands-on learning-oriented innovation program called the Experimentary. And then what else? Let's see. Some of the programs, so Andover and Exeter have a very similar thing. They have both a e-summer program and a traditional 5-week-long residential program. But those programs, they offer, in addition to very interesting academic electives, also college prep. So if you want your kid to buckle down and just do their test prep with other kids, mixed in with a fun on-campus experience, that would be a good choice. Taft is a place that has like a golf course. So if your kid is into golf, oh, sorry, I should have put Kate on a separate line. But Kate is the West Coast School, of course, has a lot of design thinking courses. I find that the West Coast schools have more of that type of courses, and as in more project-based oriented, more tech-oriented courses. And on the East Coast, a lot of wonderful choices with humanities, language, and more traditional academics. Although that's beginning to evolve. Okay, middle school camps, feel free to take a screenshot. But I want to say that one of the areas that is a little bit weaker in Hong Kong, I would say, would be like theater and obviously like even farms. There are some really cool farm experiences in Hong Kong, actually. So if we are bound to staying within our city next year, do check out some of the farms in Hong Kong, and they definitely welcome younger volunteers as well, if that's something your kid is into. Belmont and Fay are places with great writing programs. And some universities like Duke also have now programs for younger children. Okay, more camps. These are different areas that I often get questions about for younger kids. I'm sharing this because a lot of the other things that I'll go through even more quickly are for high school kids. And those, there are more options for high school kids. So I just wanted to highlight some of the ones that are for tweens and for middle school kids. This is a fun one. It's in Hawaii. The Yolani School is a school that has more recently offered international students the opportunity to study there and to board there. And I just bring that up because most of the time Hong Kong parents ask me about East Coast schools or sometimes West Coast, but Hawaii is an option too. That is a little removed from the mainland. And for that reason, both in terms of COVID and other issues that people have with America, a little bit of an alternative choice that still offers a lot of what you would find in a traditional boarding school. Okay, now we're moving to things that you may have heard of, but I've listed what I think are kind of unique to these schools, including the fact that whether or not they're going to do it online. And I brought up Carnegie Mellon just because this is an example of a school that's fantastic, but next year they're only offering it to US citizens. I don't know whether that means it's okay if you live abroad and you're an American, but just so you know that this year, because of COVID, there might be some schools where unfortunately it is not available to international students. And then I also want to highlight that there are other models to choose from when it comes to online programs. For example, Columbia University currently is offering something called academic year immersion at Columbia, and it's 10 weeks of weekend classes and activities. So pretty intense, but I think in a way it's also a response to COVID because a lot of schools are not able to offer high quality online classes. And so some universities have begun to offer these interesting options for high schoolers during the school year. Special ed camps. If you haven't heard of TASC, definitely check it out. You know how I talked about pay to play? This is definitely the opposite of pay to play. It's entirely free, very competitive, very selective, like wonderful program for juniors and all types of, especially if your child is the type that is bored at school and it doesn't feel that there's enough of an academic challenge, TASC would be wonderful opportunity and experience. Unfortunately, it's canceled for 2021, but I thought it was fine to mention it because a lot of you have kids who are younger. So just looking down the road, that's something to check out. Drama, Emerson has a great program. Berkeley Musical Theater, you may have heard of or not. Interlochen is very well known in Hong Kong. Iowa's Young Writers Studio, a little bit more competitive, but fantastic writing program. I myself have done it 3 times as an adult, and it's this is their junior version, but they have one for adults too, if you're interested yourself. And just so you know, these things, you often, if they're competitive, you have to have a portfolio for them. So that's another thing we'll talk about, like how to prepare. You kind of have to start preparing now if you're thinking of the more selective ones, because you have to apply. Usually the deadline is before, whoops, I should stop, is before December, before February. Specialized programs, entrepreneurship, a very hot new area, a lot of kids interested in it. There are more and more programs. Actually, the very first program Baker and Bloom offered was a social entrepreneurship program. And I'll share some pictures from that program later on. But here are some from all over the U.S. LaunchX is a very well-known one. Okay, arts and music. Again, feel free to take a screenshot or a photo and digest later. But just so you know, I just want to show the range of that, because you can go to an art school like RISD or music, Tanglewood, very intense, amazing experience with lots of musicians. But I've also had kids who got in and decided not to go because it's so intensive and it's like a commitment of like 6 weeks, I believe. And you may have a competing interest. And if you're doing music all year round already and you're not going to major in music, that may not be what you want to do. There are things like Art Nano Lab, summer institutes, and just arts institute, conservatories, lots of different fun things to do. Some UK options as well, although this isn't one. But I added this one because I wanted to point out design, media, arts. So maybe you're thinking, oh, my kid doesn't paint or do anything like that, but they just spend a lot of time in front of the computer. So they could go take a course on video editing, right? Or film, like learning how to do film and cinematography. That's another area of the arts that they could develop over the summer. Dance, theater, music, coding boot camps. Okay, I'm just going to go through this very quickly. And at the end, if there's anything you really want me to spend more time on, I will do so. These are some of the very top STEM programs. Most of the ones, the reason I put these on are because these are the ones that look good because they're really, really high quality. They are selective. And all the other ones you can find in any, like I'm sure there are camps in most university summer camps. So if you look up any, like let's say Michigan, Brown, Columbia, Cornell, all of them have science programs. These are the more specialized ones. The kids who want to apply to Caltech, MIT, these are the things that they usually apply to. If you have a daughter, MIT is a women's tech program, and it's specifically for seniors. Beaver Works is for younger kids. Stanford has a great medicine research program. Johns Hopkins has one that is focused on engineering innovation. So not just engineering, but innovation. And then there's science competitions. And of course, there are also math Olympiads. I think these are very specialized. I would only suggest them if your kid is young and already very good at math, so that's not a waste of time at all. But if they're already like a junior or something and they're not going to major in these areas, I would not suggest joining like a math Olympiad camp. But I just want to point that out in case you do have a child who's really into that. Research, a huge area. And these are some established research programs. Nice thing about them is it's all laid out for your child. The hard work is to apply, but at least if you get in, you will be matched with someone interesting, someone knowledgeable, and have a whole guided, structured experience. But of course, you can do research anywhere. And these days you can do it remotely. So you can also look up programs, and there are also companies that offer research opportunities that are pay to play, but could still be very good. Of course, you can also find research opportunities yourself and conduct independent research. I also want to point out that I've had students recently do research with companies. That's also quite interesting. So you might work at a company that requires you, like it could be a think tank. I had a student work at, look at this, what was it called? Oh my goodness. It will come back to me, but it's a Hong Kong think tank, and it asked of him to do research for policy paper they were writing. So I thought that was actually really cool that the research that he was doing actually contributed to something that was being published by this think tank. So it's not, I'm just suggesting looking outside of universities. And of course, within Hong Kong, there are all these options. Some of the more interesting ones are outdoors in experiences like Treasure Island or Outward Bound. Hong Kong U has a summer institute. The Hong Kong Children's Musical Theater is another one. And of course, B&B, we offer a lot of summer workshops, which I will share a few with you. These, in case you've never been to Baker & Bloom, because I know some of you may not have, this is what it looks like. And these are kids engaged in classes like Super Learner. You see this girl, it's a class on learning how to learn, and meta skills like study skills, memory skills, and we're doing an activity here on memorizing. And we have a lot of like book clubs, reading focus programs. This is our primary floor. This is our secondary floor. And we offer everything from coaching to organized workshops that are usually 5-day long. And for example, we have a course called Great Books, and we go through books that often appear on the curriculum for IB schools or AP schools, but we do it in a way that's fun, that gets kids to really think about the books that are part of the canon often, but in ways that are more interesting and with less pressure. academic writing. We also have a great media literacy class that is becoming an important part of a lot of curriculum, like even the IB and the GCSE have incorporated media literacy into their exams. But for us, it's really about teaching kids to be a critical thinker and how to tell what is valid in different subjects. We live in a world full of fake news, so we thought this is something important. And of course, back to our roots, Baker and Bloom started out with social entrepreneurship and creative writing. So we have fantastic creative writing teachers. Ms. Steph does a lot of poetry coaching. Ms. Lenore Look is was a former journalist and also an award-winning children's author. So a lot of our teachers, not just the two of them, have experience and background in writing themselves and are passionate about it. A nice thing about it is they get to meet kids from different schools. We also have like an entrepreneurship program, which we may be running and may not be running this summer. So you kind of have to stay tuned because we also work closely with Cocoon. And sometimes we just, last year, for example, we did an innovation program together instead of our own. But it's the same thing. You can still check it out and enroll in it. Even if it's not just our own, it will be in collaboration with Cocoon. And we have speakers. We teach design thinking, teach kids to design their own projects. Often these include service projects that become long-term projects for kids that are very meaningful. I do try to have an emphasis on service within entrepreneurship, and kids have experienced prototyping, working with other kids, building things, and then of course they have to present an individual project proposal, and they're really amazing. Like they do wireframes, they do detailed presentations that are very impressive, even within a week. Some of our programs are 2 weeks, sometimes they're 1 week. And we actually have a panel of judges to evaluate their performance. Okay, getting into the how a bit more. Choose, plan, apply. When it comes to academic programs, a lot of them have applications. So, okay, first of all, look at the big picture. What I mean by that is zoom out, think about what your child has been doing a lot of and what has been missing. In order to identify what you want them to focus on, involve your child in the decision making, and pay attention to deadlines. Because this is an unprecedented year and we are not sure what will happen next summer, I've included a whole list of things that you can do in Hong Kong, in your own study or living room, with your child, or with the support of an academic coach. And these include, on the right-hand side, a lot of arts and humanities experiences. Craft in America is amazing. There's like loads of ideas for craft projects. Met Kids, museums, Smithsonian is terrific. Pre-made experiences, 3D experiences in Smithsonian, interacting with artifacts. And I think, you know, while certainly this is a year nobody would want to relive again, it has been also incredible in terms of the explosion of online learning resources. Many institutions have opened the doors in ways that they never would have before. And you get Europe, I don't even know how to read it, to be honest. Europeana is this terrific European-centric resource where they draw together museums, like everything from the Louvre to Van Gogh Museum to museums and institutions throughout Europe, from Czech Republic to the UK, libraries, everything is open and you can see the art or interact with the artifacts. And they also have challenges for your kids to do. So if you need any ideas for projects, just go to these resources. And I mean, just for fun ones, even zoos like the Cincinnati Zoo and Brooklyn Zoo have like live safari for kids. So if you have children, and I know a lot of younger children love animals, something fun to do, and it might inspire a project idea. So I wrote this little ditty for you to guide you in terms of making choices. Think about doing something to make your heart sing, something to make you sprout new wings, explore new things, something to help you breathe slow, and something to make your heart grow. A little bit cheesy, but just a way to remember what we were saying before as we look into the more technical aspects of how to plan a summer. So first step is to reflect. This goes back to the big picture idea. If you're doing an application, I often ask you to think about their theme, right? Like what is the main identity and persona that they're trying to present, and how can that be cultivated during the summer. Then you got to do a lot of research. This is where many kids are very lazy and they kind of don't go beyond the first Google page. And you really have to step in this stage to help them stretch, encourage them to talk to more people, and to talk to people in their schools and alumni, talk to people who are in the fields that they want to enter in the future. And then they really have to set goals if we're talking about doing a project. And at Baker Bloom, we have a program called Inspired Project. And what we offer is a coach to go through this process with you. So I'll tell you what we do, but if you want to do it on your own, you can totally do that as well. What the coach will do is to help with the research process and to connect and discuss with the kids what they love and how that might be connected to different types of project options, different themes and scope of the project. That's very important. Sometimes kids have no idea and they come up with a project they bite off more than they can chew, and that's not very satisfying for them. Doing timelines, goal setting, and then we also find a field mentor for them to evaluate their project proposal and to give them feedback on the project as they continue. And once a month, they check in with the project coach. It can be more if you desire. And sometimes, let's say they want to design an app, but their app making skills, their coding skills is not as strong in that language. We can first offer classes on that language before they launch into the project. And what's important, regardless of whether you enroll in our program or not, is to have stakes and to find someone to hold your child responsible and accountable. Here are some examples of what kids these days do as projects and what many of B&B coaches have helped their kids do. And you can see a lot of them can be done without traveling. You can write and animate a story. We last year had a private class where kids took writing classes, wrote fantasy stories, did a coding class, built their whole world, and animated their stories. You can host a webinar using Screencastify create a webinar on a topic that you're an expert on. Do a podcast with friends. So I have a kid who's doing a sustainability podcast, interviewing leaders in sustainability in Hong Kong. It could be more simple. They could just design an infographic, and that's developing a very useful skill, which down the road might help them find an internship. Designing maps. So a lot of visual design things. Another example of how you might have a child who's interested in music, and here are 4 different ways they could develop it. They could host an online music concert fundraiser. They could do a podcast reviewing music from different countries. They could record a music album and perform in a festival online or in person, ideally. They could create a documentary, and this is an actual one, rather elaborate. I'm just showing you extremes. Don't get stressed out. Many times, especially before they get serious in their junior year, kids are doing really simple versions of these things. And moving on to the final topic on internships, before we talk about internships, I want to remind kids and you that without skills, no one really wants to hire you. Like, that's why a lot of internship programs you have to pay for, because you're not actually helping the company. So they really want to hire people who have skills. And young people actually do bring with them a very unique skill set, which is that they're digital natives. And a lot of times when it comes to social media, they have very good instincts because it is their world. But to develop and have expertise in this requires some work. And something that you can take advantage of this summer might be to develop those skills that do not require you to leave your study. So they could learn to code better in different languages, more languages. And they can also take courses in things that they're interested in. So if you want to go into a, like say we did an internship with a kid on sustainable fashion, you might want to take a course on fashion before you do that. If you want to work at an architect firm, well, maybe take a course on architecture before you apply for an internship. Here are some that are in the US, which are, again, like the research programs. You apply for them. Nice thing is you get in, the internship is built in. Okay, we also have our own internship program, and the process is meeting with our B&B internship coordinator, discussing your interests and academic background and your skills, and then let us know. We do the matching. Then we will do a presentation after we've identified. Our focus is actually, because it's in collaboration with Cocoon, we do have a specialty. So we do focus a lot on startups and also service. So that one is not in collaboration with Cocoon, but we do focus a bit on service as well. And what we offer is training on how to write your resume, do interviews, internship training as well. And I do love our program because it isn't just a pay-to-play program, because we actually provide these options, but we do not guarantee that the employer will hire you, that the startup will hire you, because we're trying to give kids a real experience here. And the startups that we recruit are not places where every year they have like an internship program. They actually don't usually hire interns. So we have to convince them based on your interests, and we approach them and they want to interview you. So what a lot of parents have said they appreciated is that their kids actually had that experience. Sometimes they're being rejected, but also learning how to interview in a way that actually has some stakes to it. And then after they do it, we also check in with them throughout the internship, and at the end, help with their reflection of the whole experience. Oh, I should have added, what we also include is a letter of recommendation. Now, of course, we cannot guarantee that it is a positive one if the child does not perform well, but by and large, we've had really good experiences. Our students have done very well. And so we do ask the internship, someone from the leadership team to write a letter of a recommendation letter. These are examples of what we've connected kids to doing just this past summer. Everything from sustainable fashion and green tech to ed tech and internships in research. And that's actually more of a research experience. And if you've never been to Cocoon, this is what it looks like. We may not have time to go through this in detail, but these are some of the things we advise kids to do, which is preparing, anticipating, going there and still having initiative and not just waiting for an assignment, but to think about what you want to get out of the internship and make sure you get that. But also like even little things like socializing with people during lunch so that you actually talk to people in the field and have a good interactive, like personal experience that perhaps you can write about. So it's not something to just put in the activities list on the Common App, but something that you can talk about if you were to do a college interview and actually inform your decision about whether you want to major in something as well. Okay. So going back to this picture of this beautiful little otter relaxing there, I know that what we just said, like what I just shared, may not reflect what this picture captures, that mood, but I do think it is important that no matter what your kid does, they are involved, that they also have a chance to relax in the summer. That is so important. Like even as you're having this conversation with your child, be okay and remind them that it is important. Some children are too ambitious and they don't remember that they actually need that downtime, even if they don't think they do. And at the same time, think about what they can do that they can't do the rest of the year. It can be something really fun. So last tip here for you as you have this conversation, even though it's about teachers, I think it applies to parents. The best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. So while we want to be guides and helpful in our children's summer planning experiences, at the end of the day, it is their journey. So it's really important for them to see what they want to see and hopefully have an experience that's utterly unique to them. And if you have other questions, please feel free to ask them. And in fact, if you're willing to stay, we are going to take questions now. Let me turn on the chat. Okay, we do have questions. Okay, feel free to unmute people. Okay, there's a question on the ages, which has been answered. So projects, yes, usually grade 4 and above. Below that, usually we don't do as many projects. Sometimes we do private coaching, which resembles a project, but for the project program that's more structured, it's usually actually grade 5 and above. Internships definitely no younger than grade 8. And if it's with a company, sometimes it has to be 16 and above. Baker and Bloom also takes interns every year. So we have students that have gone to college and come back to work for us, and also high school students that have done really cool things. And nice thing about working with us is that you're working in a place full of teachers, so lots of mentors. And then any other questions? the slide for the entrepreneurship camp. Yes, I can go back to that slide. If you have a question later on, feel free to, oh, yes, hang on. I should show this slide, yes. So this is our updated slide on how to contact us, many different ways. We even have a YouTube channel now, so you can check out some of our the highlights from the different B&B webinars there. And feel free to call us and drop by, you know, after hopefully the fourth wave is over. We're actually very conveniently located in Wan Chai across from PP3. So do drop by and find out more about any of these things that we've talked about. And I will go back to that slide. Sorry, it's very strange because I don't hear anything, but hopefully this has been useful to you. And if you do have a question, let us know. Let me see, how do I, wait, let me, okay, so I've resumed sharing that slide on entrepreneurship. Yes, so this is an answer to the question about what one hopes to achieve through attending boarding school summer programs. Let me return to that page. Hopefully, whoever asked for it has taken a picture of that slide. What do you want to achieve? I think it really depends. A lot of times people go because they want to go to boarding school. And this is like a taster and a preview of what it might be like. But as you can see from what I've highlighted here, they offer experiences that I don't think are really available in Hong Kong most of the time. And they offer an international experience as well. Not just international because it's international for your child, but they draw kids from all over the world. And that can be, as I said, you know, cultivating friendships, meeting people, broadening their horizons, being in a classroom where kids are used to a different form of learning. Kids often in the States are more vocal. And so it's nice for kids from Hong Kong who may not be as used to voicing their opinions to see how that's done. And then by the end of summer to be that way themselves. And while it is true that some schools, like say Exeter may not be employing their own teachers because their own teachers are on break, they may employ teachers from other boarding schools. That happens all the time. And I've seen, very funnily, teachers recruit kids to their own schools. So like they may be going to a Choate summer camp, but then the Andover teacher may have recruited them to go to Andover, which is kind of funny. But at the same time, I think definitely that is one of the benefits of going to these boarding school camps, that you get that dining, well, you also get the dining experience, the cafeteria experience, but you also get the residential dorm life experience. Some kids go and they really decide they don't want to go to boarding school. So I think that's a huge benefit, right? Saving you 4 years of not being with your kid and boarding school tuition when your kid actually does not want to go. Sometimes kids go to boarding school because all their friends are applying, and that's not a good reason to go at all. So especially these days when there's the risk that you might end up being in Hong Kong, Zooming in the middle of the night instead of being in boarding school, I think it's really worth thinking about whether you want to do that. Okay, I do want to mention, I don't know if anyone is still here, but are we done? I don't know if people are still here, but I do want to say that do check out programs in mainland China. So like, for example, YK POW offers a really good summer camp, and I'm sure every major Chinese university, and I even have a slide on the major universities somewhere here, offer summer programs. However, I found that most of the time they don't offer it for high school kids. So you do have to dig deeper. And the ones that do offer it for high school kids, I find are more catered towards like foreign students So they may not be native Mandarin speakers, and you may not be as interested in that if your child already speaks Chinese fluently. But I will share with you this. Okay. So these are some schools that you can check out that are obviously the top universities, but also there are schools like Shanghai's Jiaotong Daxue that has a global summer program, which is really nice, and it has a business aspect to it. So they actually take kids to visit companies. And just want to share that I think in this day and age, especially during COVID times, China might be the safest option this coming summer. Okay, so I am gonna call it a wrap as we have already run over for 15 minutes, but I will still stay if you have remaining questions. But thank you so much for your time today, and I hope it's been useful. And do check out some of our other talks that are coming up. We do have talks every month. And yeah, have a great weekend. Bye, everyone. Faye, I will stay to, I think you had a question about inspired